If you have ADHD, there's a good chance you've said this before. I work best under pressure. And honestly, that often feels true. You get focused, you get things done, and you perform. But here's the problem. You also crash. And that's not a productivity system, that's an over-reliance or dependency on stress and adrenaline. But in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why that works, why it eventually backfires, and how to start performing without always needing pressure in the first place. My name is Jamie Vasilian, the Hypnosis for ADHD Sustainable Performance Specialist, and I help people like yourself take back control of your uniquely wired brain so you can move away from burnout cycles and into more consistent, sustainable performance. So let's start with why this even works. When you work under pressure, your nervous system shifts. Adrenaline goes up, cortisol increases, your brain becomes more alert. And what happens? Your attention narrows, distractions fade, you can finally focus. So in simple terms, stress creates focus. And for an ADHD brain that struggles with getting started, that can feel like a solution. Now, there's an important nuance I want to share with you in this video. That adrenaline itself and stress is not the problem. In fact, research shows that it can temporarily improve focus, motivation, even emotional regulation in those with ADHD. So when you say, I work best under pressure, you're not wrong. The problem, though, is when that becomes your only way to function. You can think of it like driving. Sometimes you need to hit the gas to get moving, but other times you will need to apply the brakes and slow down or even stop. As I'm always sharing with my ADHD clients, sometimes you need to slow down to go faster. Now, us human beings are generally creatures of habit. When it comes to performance and adrenaline, it's no different. Because once your brain learns pressure equals focus, it starts recreating pressure. Pressure can become our default. You delay tasks, you wait for urgency, you rely on deadlines. And over time, you don't just respond to pressure, you become dependent on it. And this is where it starts to break down because adrenaline is a high intensity state. It's not designed to be sustained 24/7 forever. So eventually your energy drops, motivation disappears, everything feels harder, you crash, and then the cycle repeats. Now, I was working with a client who wanted to fix this reliance on deadline-only performance. In her second session, she turned up and said, I got my essay done last minute again. Now, as she said that, I was admittedly thinking to myself, okay, so perhaps she wants more hypnosis to be able to work without relying on deadlines. But she surprised me that day when she sighed a sigh of relief and explained, since our first session, I've realized I don't need to feel shame about getting my essay in last minute. I managed to get it in on time. Surely that's the whole point of a deadline after all. Now, that change in thinking was big for her because for her that meant an end to the guilt. No longer piling the stress of guilt on top of the stress already required to meet a deadline. After all, as I said earlier, stress and adrenaline isn't the enemy. We need a stress and adrenaline to function. The problem is really when we rely upon stress too much or become dependent upon it. So for some people, the breakthrough can be a shift in thinking so that one can still rely on pressure and deadlines, but in a sense, riding that wave of pressure without the need for guilt or shame. Now, some of my clients also realize, yes, adrenaline can be helpful sometimes, or is one mode of operation, but they can also enjoy the freedom of choosing to go beyond adrenaline mode to realize there's territory beyond. They can develop other ways to perform instead of relying on urgency, that they can learn to access the flow state, interest or enjoyment, even for things they once considered boring, and calmer focus. And something really important happens during this process. They gain a sense of control and agency because now they're not reacting to pressure. Instead, they're responding or choosing how they work. And that builds confidence, self-trust, and consistency. So if you actually want to move beyond this cycle, you need a different way of thinking about performance. Most people think in terms of effort, output. If I just push harder, I'll get better results. But with ADHD, that's not what's really happening. A more accurate model is state output, because your performance isn't just coming from effort alone. It's coming from the state your nervous system is in. When you're highly activated, stressed, under pressure, full of adrenaline, yes, you can perform. But that state is potentially unstable. And if your state of mind and body is unstable, well, your performance will be unstable as well. So higher performance isn't just about more effort, more pressure, or more adrenaline. It's about accessing a more optimal state, one that's focused, energized, but also regulated and sustainable. Because when the state becomes more stable, performance becomes more consistent. Now, one of the patterns that I've noticed in people who rely upon adrenaline alone is not just that they push really hard, but that they often don't know how to recover and switch off. It's like their nervous system is so used to being in hyperdrive all the time that they constantly have their foot on the accelerator. And so they only stop to recover once they are forced to. So just to be clear, I'm not saying in this video that we should never use adrenaline to perform and get tasks done, but I am saying that it's important to regulate yourself, to learn how to apply the brakes or take a pit stop when necessary. Or, as I like to say, work hard and take time to relax deeper. So, what can you actually do? Start noticing when you're waiting for urgency, when you're pushing into overdrive, when your system is overloaded, and begin experimenting with lower pressure ways to engage. It will feel unfamiliar at first because adrenaline feels powerful, but over time, you build a different kind of performance engine. Now, if this resonates with you and you're tired of performing in bursts and crashing, this is exactly the work I do with neurodivergent clients, helping you stabilize your nervous system so that you can build a more consistent and sustainable way of turning up and performing. You'll find a link to apply for a performance strategy call in the description below. Anyway, you've been listening to me, Jamie Vasilian, the Hypnosis for ADHD performance specialist, and bye for now.